Now that the Super Bowl is over and my good old 49ers beat those Chiefs, I got myself $1 million. It's time for us to talk about the most magical part of the NFL. No, I'm not talking about sportsmanship or the love of the game or any of that. I'm talking about this nerdy camera stuff. In particular, the graphics that they put on the field. I mean, how do they even do that? There's that yellow and the blue line, but there's like no lasers or a projector. I mean, that'd have to be a big projector. Wait, but the players are like over the line, like it's underneath them. I wonder how they do that. Well, to find out, why don't you hit that like, smash that subscribe, and stay tuned to find out. So if you've ever seen any NFL American football game, none of that European football or whatever you call it. Jesus, that's so mean.
That's great.
So if you've ever seen one of those games, you've probably noticed that the yellow line is first down and the blue line is a line of scrimmage. And it might look like a simple trick now until you realize that this is a live game. And those lines change anytime they move the ball forward or backward on the field. How would they do that? Well, honestly, it's a 20-year-old trick of camera wizardry that started way back in 1998. This was first presented on September 27th in the year of our Lord, 1998, by Sportvision Inc. And it blew everyone's minds. Granted, this is 1998, and we didn't even have like Jurassic Park or The Matrix back then, so like good graphics aren't really like in anybody's mind. So how are they getting these lines on this field? Well, this is actually an evolution of an old filmmaking technique called motion tracking, which was first pioneered in 1968 on the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, in which they used motion-tracked cameras to make a tiny little miniature look like an enormous spaceship, and which later was borrowed by George Lucas in the Star Wars franchise. They even use it to this day on The Mandalorian. That entire ship was practical. That's just a little miniature spaceship that they move the camera around, so still working out. But unfortunately for Sportsvision, a football game is live, and all the camera operators need to follow the action. So there's no pre-planned moves, and they can't just put a little miniature and move the camera. They gotta follow the action and follow the sports teams.
Yes, this is sport.
This is sports ball.
I like kick.
But even though that's a problem for Sportvision, they got something that George Lucas and Stanley Kubrick didn't have, which is a big old computer. So instead of using predetermined camera movements like they did in 2001 in the Star Wars, they actually fed the live panning and tilting data from each camera into the computer. Then the computer would interpret what part of the field the camera was looking at. This was possible because they made a hyper-detailed digital version of the field. Bunch of technicians had to go and meticulously measure every part of the field and then feed it into the computer to create the digital version. And with those measurements from the field and all the data from the cameras, the computer could tell exactly where the camera was looking anywhere on the field. And luckily, since they did all this painstaking work to set it up, a stadium doesn't really change that much every time you're using it. So luckily, this setup could last technically forever. So now all they gotta do is put in a yellow line. A yodel diddle line. So now they just gotta put in a little yellow line. Sounds easy, right? Well, it's a little more complicated than you might think, but they're using a technique that you've probably already seen, which is green screening or keying. So chroma keying or green screening is when you place a green background or a green element in the frame, and then you can key it out in post and put whatever you want over there. This is usually seen with a blue or a green screen in the background. Why blue and green? Because those elements don't usually occur in the human body. Like look right now, I ain't green, I ain't blue. So it's pretty easy to get rid of green. You didn't think there was a screen behind me, or maybe you did. It's a pretty obvious effect. Looks good though, Alan did his job well. And you honestly see this effect every day. There's usually a weather channel with a weather person in front of a background, and you see all those graphics, and you're like, how did they do that? Well, it's usually a green screen. And they can run into trouble when maybe the weather person is wearing something green, and they just look like a floating head and arms every once in a while, so makes it pretty obvious how they're doing the trick. And what do you think's the world's largest green screen? Comment below. I mean, I'll tell you in a second, but write a comment. That's right, it's a football field. Gold star, you're so smart. So a football field is just an enormous green screen. So all they need to do is key out the green and then put that line back in. But unfortunately, there are people out there. So the biggest problem with a green screen like the one we have behind us is lighting. So if there's any sort of shadow or different type of green on it, then that might not actually be removed super easily. So what they would do was sample every shade of green that would appear during play. So if the game's gonna happen at like 5 p.m., they go in 5 p.m. the earlier day and sample all those different shades of green. So they have people run around on the field and make some crazy shadows, and then pick those specific shades of green that have different lumosity. And with all those different colors, then on game day, it's pretty easy to sample those and take them back out, and then be able to put that line right into place. And for more information on the blue and yellow line and actually the history of SportVision, please check out this video from Vox. They do a really good job and a couple of cool graphics to explain a little bit more history on the subject. And I mean, geez, that's a lot of work just for a little line, but that was way back in 1998. Since then, they've been able to put different graphics on the field. And SportVision have actually gone on to do even more stuff, working with hockey and NASCAR to add more graphics to make things a little bit more entertaining for the viewer. So much so that as of 2012, they've won 10 Emmys, and they deserve it. This is some crazy technology that takes a lot of ingenuity and knowledge of a lot of different filmmaking techniques. And this type of filmmaking is so effective that they're actually using it today on The Mandalorian. If you see some behind the scenes footage, you'll notice that there's just this big round projector and then a soundstage. Well, that round projector is motion tracked to the camera. So as the camera moves, they track its motion and change what's projected on the background. So it looks like they're on an alien planet when they're actually on a soundstage at Lucas Ranch, eating some tortellini or whatever you cook. We get it, Jon Favreau, you like to cook. Chef was really good. I'm a meme. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. In the spirit of the Super Bowl, please comment below with your favorite commercial that you saw. Ours was Charlie Day when he was running around asking people if it was later. Don't we all, Charlie? Don't we all? So if you liked this video, give it a like. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike. Please feel free to let us know how you feel in the comments. What'd y'all think about that baby nut thing? You guys see that? Somebody called me that in the street, I'd say, who told you? How do you know about this? I don't speak about that publicly.
I love it. Really good. I love it.